Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out this very special episode of Vinyl Rewind as I pay tribute to David Bowie by looking at his 25th and final album, Blackstar, from 2016 on ISO Records. Bowie started writing for Blackstar right after the release of his previous album, The Next Day in 2013. By the summer of 2014, he caught a performance of the Donny McCaslin Quintet at the 55 Bar in New York City. Afterwards, Bowie approached Donny with the idea of working with his band on his next album. Of course, the band agreed, and they were then given demos of about 6 or so songs that Bowie wished to record formally. But these weren't just simple sketches you might imagine. Oh no! These were for the most part pretty much finished songs, albeit in demo form. And in the case of 2 songs, Sue or In the Season of Crime and its B-side, 'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore, were already released. All the band needed to do was learn the songs and do some arranging. Formal recording took place over 3 one-week sessions in January, February, and March of 2015. It's also interesting to note that most of the band met Bowie for the first time on the first day of recording. Well, no pressure there. But in all seriousness, the band were very prepared and performed well, but they did find themselves in an interesting position. On the one hand, they were more or less hired as session musicians, but on the other, David Bowie, along with his longtime producer Tony Visconti, encouraged collaboration, input, and even experimentation from them. Basically, within the confines of the song's structure, they were allowed to add their own style, and in some cases, solos. Saxophonist Donny McCaslin describes Bowie as being very respectful and a pleasure to work with. By the end of 2015, the album was pretty much finished, but he held off the release until his 69th birthday, which was on January 8th, 2016. Once released, it went on to be a huge seller, becoming his first and only #1 album in the US. It also debuted in the #1 spot on the UK charts, making it his 10th #1 album in that country. And I can't help but think that with his death happening just 2 days after its release, that must have spurred sales, with folks knowing that this was his last album. Okay, the packaging on the vinyl version is stunning. I am so impressed. Jonathan Barnbrook designed the artwork for the album. He also designed 3 previous Bowie albums. One of my favorite aspects is how he spelled out the word Bowie right here using just the star. So there's a B-O-W-I-E. I love that he did that. Another thing you'll notice too is that, other than you can see the freaking record right there and the cutout of the star, is that, well, you don't see it so much here, but on the back, this is essentially like a matte or a semi-gloss, not even a semi-gloss, like an eggshell finish, so it's very dull. But the lettering is not so much printing as it is what I believe is called spot varnishing. So essentially, it's not ink, but it's like a gloss finish that's being printed on. So it only picks up certain areas, and man, it is just so striking. Opening it up, it is a gatefold. You got a star field there, Bowie looking really freaking cool. I really like these constellations using words. I do find it hilarious that they included a parental advisory, explicit lyric sticker on the album, because it's like, the kids who are buying this, I think the parents would be happy that they're getting into Bowie. You know what I mean? Like, of all the albums you put it on a David Bowie album. Okay, now, it does come with this amazing booklet that I can't wait to show you. Again, you have that spot varnishing, you have these amazing photos, and honestly, when I first opened it up, I was kind of in a lower light situation, and I thought this page was blank. The light did not pick up this cool design or the lyrics here. But again, this book is just full of amazing imagery. Oh man, look how cool that is. Like that's just amazing, right? So in a certain light, you just see Bowie, and then you adjust it and you see a really cool geometric design there. So yeah, it's got lyrics for every song. Some of these images look like they're from the Lazarus music video too. Again, you have the Bowie with the stars right there, which I think is really cool. The back is just black. How awesome is that? One thing I don't like is just by handling the booklet and this cover, I feel like I'm making it worse because I'm causing creases and fingerprints. And so that's the only bummer about matte finish, is that it picks up every little imperfection. All right, guys, you have waited long enough. How does this record sound? Well, let's start with the album opener and title track, Blackstar. This song starts off rather ethereal and almost a little haunting. I mean, there's something about the way he's singing that makes me think he's an alien. I don't know, maybe I saw The Man Who Fell to Earth one too many times, but check it out for yourself.
In the villa of our men stands a solitary candle.
Okay, so the song kind of continues that same theme, and just as you're getting used to that, about 4 minutes in, it switches gears on you, and this is the part I really like, so check this out.
How many times does an angel fall? How many people lie instead of talking tall?
Now, towards the end of the song, it sort of breaks down into its different parts in a very interesting way, and you can kind of hear some of these cool electronic beeps. It's my belief that this is the work of James Murphy of LCD Sound System. It's been reported that he helped out during the February sessions, lending his drumming talents as well as his very rare EMS Synthi AKS instrument. It's basically a briefcase-looking device that makes some really cool sounds. They were produced in the UK in the early 70s and happen to be very rare and expensive these days. They have been used by Brian Eno, Robert Fripp, and most notably on 2 tracks of Dark Side of the Moon, On the Run and Any Color You Like. Moving on down to track 2, we have 'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore. Wow, okay, hearing him breathe at the opening is very chilling, but man, do I love the feel of this song. It's like Bowie reaching back into his past. As I mentioned earlier, this was one of 2 tracks released previously, and I gotta say, I much prefer this version. The original just felt underdeveloped. I love the backing vocals on the album version, and the way his vocals sit right on top, it's so good. The sax is also excellent on this track, and I just love how the drum and bass really drive this song.
Hold your bad hands, I cry. 'Tis a pity she was a whore.
Up next is the first single off the album and the title track for his 2015 musical, Lazarus.
Look up here, I'm in heaven.
Oh man, the first time I heard that lyric, it gave me chills. I couldn't help but think that he knew that this was going to be his last album, but as I was doing research for this review, I learned that that may not be necessarily true. While he was diagnosed with liver cancer just 18 months prior to his passing, he was undergoing treatment, and it seemed to be working. By the summer of 2015, he was in remission. At this point, the album was complete save for some overdubs and mixings. In fact, he was in talks with his producer, Tony Visconti, about recording a follow-up to Blackstar, and he also expressed interest to Brian Eno about collaborating again. He even recorded a demo of new songs a week before his passing. So while it is easy to think that this was a goodbye album, I don't think that was necessarily his intention when he entered that recording studio. Flipping over to side 2, we have track 1, Sue, parentheses, or In a Season of Crime. While I prefer the original recording of this song released on his compilation album, Nothing Has Changed, the version here does fit better within the overall album experience. I'm just not a fan of that recurring guitar bass riff. It becomes very monotonous and rather tiresome. Overall, the original has a more contemporary jazz feel, whereas this version has a rock electronic hybrid sound. Let me know which version you guys prefer. Coming up next is track 2, Girl Loves Me.
Real bad dizzy snatch, making all the homies mad. Thursday.
So, truth be told, this is probably my least favorite track on the album, but the more I hear it, the more I'm starting to like it. He seems to swear the most on this song, which is something I'm not used to hearing from Bowie, but because of this, it makes it rather impactful for me as a listener.
Well, the fuck is Monday,
Jumping down to track 3, we have Dollar Days.
cash girl, suffer me. I've got no enemies. I'm walking down.
This song is amazing. I think the opening is beautiful, and I love when Bowie's voice comes in with that acoustic guitar. It is so good. Hearing the melody and his voice just gave me chills the first time I heard it, especially how he phrases the lyric, I'm Dying Too.
I'm dying to push their backs against the grain and fool them all again and again.
So this is probably my favorite track off the album, and I love how it blends right into the last song, I Can't Give Everything Away.
I knew something's very wrong. The pulse returns from prodigal sons.
This has got to be one of the most bittersweet songs for me. The music has this very positive, uplifting vibe, but lyrically, it really represents him at death's door. I see it as him realizing that he can give away all his possessions, but he can't give away his mind or his music. Like, once he dies, there is no more Bowie. That's it. They didn't make another Bowie. For me, the underlying idea of this song is goodbye. He is saying goodbye to his fans. It's the perfect way to end the album, and it makes you want to listen to this whole album all over again. I gotta be honest, his passing hit me hard, more so than any other celebrity in recent years. I never met him, but his work somehow reached me and touched me at a very personal level. I'm sure many of you watching feel the same way. But he left us with this one final album, and wow, what a record to go out on. As his producer described it, this was his parting gift to his fans, and that's the part that really hit home. He thought of his fans while he was dying. And I think it's amazing that he kept exploring musically and didn't just leave us with something that we were expecting from him. He really gave us something to think about, discuss, and argue over for years to come. This record is challenging to the listener, and I think that's great because so much of what Bowie did throughout his career was challenging. He did push the limits, and this record is a perfect testament to that. I'm also impressed with his openness to new music. On this album, he was influenced by Kendrick Lamar, D'Angelo, and even Death Grips, which is one of those groups I still haven't gotten into. I just think it's great that a 68-year-old dude was listening to current music. He kept an open mind, which is something that I will continue to strive for as I age. All that being said, however, it did take me a while to warm up to this album. While I didn't have any expectations hearing it for the first time, I can't say I absolutely loved it right off the bat. It literally took me multiple listens before I could really get into it, and even now, I don't think this is my favorite record of his, but it is very good, and I think it's one of those records that's going to age very well. So, do I recommend this album? That's a tough one. So the way I see it, there are two types of Bowie fans. The ones who talk about him in terms of his albums, and those that know him for his hits, and that's about it. For the album fans, this is a must own, and chances are you probably already do. For the fans who love him for his hits, I don't think this album will appeal to you. Yes, there are some very catchy singles on here, but for the most part, it's not gonna be your cup of tea. It's gonna be very hard to get into, especially the first few tracks. If you haven't tuned into his work since the 1980s, it's gonna be very different, and it's not the Bowie you're used to. That being said, if you like Bowie as an artist, what he does artistically, then yeah, you should pick this album up. Take that chance. Now, if you're looking to get a copy, I highly recommend getting the vinyl edition, not just because I'm all about vinyl, but because it looks so cool and it's way better than the all-white CD cover. And it does come with a digital download card, so you got that base covered too. I do want to mention that there was a limited edition clear vinyl version that was available for pre-orders via davidbowie.com, but expect to pay a lot for that version. That is if you can find it, as there are only 5,000 copies made. But hey, this is where I turn it over to you guys, and you let me know what you think down in the comments below, or better yet, post a video and send me the link. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. As always, thank you so much for watching. I am your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Moving on down to track 2, we have 'Tis a Pizzy, 'Tis a Pizzy,